This is an art collage novel video. I made this series so you guys can experience the story faster. The video will focus on the character's psychology, the images are for illustration purposes only. Fu Yichuan's grip loosened slightly under that punch. Anger appeared on his face as he said, "I was giving you a chance to be a prisoner, but you didn't cherish it. Don't blame me for killing you." His 5 fingers moved, and rays of green light flickered out, crisscrossing to form a large green net. It covered the sky, and the net had a green tail light on it. It was unusually sharp, and everywhere it passed, a large area of darkness appeared. All of a sudden, the space in front of Commander Li Jing distorted slightly, and the Devil Otter commander suddenly appeared. It extended its right fist and spread its 5 fingers. A slender finger blade directly cut through the air and struck the green net. A few lines of the net were immediately broken and torn apart. Then, the Commander Devil Otter stretched out its left hand again. It was still a few finger blades. A series of explosions rang out in the air, and the spatial shackles around the Commander Power Whale were cut open. "Let's go." Commander Mo Ting let out a soft cry, then turned into a beam of light and fled. His movements were extremely sharp and smooth, without any sloppiness. A trace of hesitation flashed across the commander's face, but he followed closely. "You dare to look down on me, you can't be forgiven." Fu Yichuan's expression changed. He was an 8 stars martial emperor. If he let someone rescue him right under his nose, he would be too ashamed to show his face. "Stay." He shouted loudly and made a hand seal with one hand. Golden symbols suddenly appeared on the long robe he was wearing, and they moved without any wind. His 2 long sleeves kept expanding, exuding extremely strong spiritual power. His sleeves were as hard as iron. Fu Yichuan formed hand seals with one hand and raised his other hand high. Runes similar to the ones on his robe appeared in the sky and pressed down on the 2 people who were escaping. Sheng smiled and said softly in the spectator stand, "It's actually Universe Creator. I haven't seen Sir Yichuan in action for many years. This ultimate skill has reappeared and displayed its divine might." Ning Huaishu's eyes also revealed a look of praise, saying, "This move is best used to capture enemies." The Mo Ting and the Strength Whale commander were both shocked. Under the pressure of the strange symbols that filled the sky, they felt that it was difficult for them to leave this strange space no matter how they fled. The Strength Whale commander clenched his fists and punched at the void. The commander spread out its 10 fingers, and countless finger blades crisscrossed, trying to create a passage in this space. The 2's attacks spread out, but it was like a stone sinking into the ocean, disappearing into thin air. The binding force around them became tighter and tighter. "Despicable, despicable humans, kill them." The Sea Tribe's martialists who had stopped behind him were all furious. They roared and charged forward again. All sorts of attacks rained down on Fu Yichuan, but none of them could get close to him. Sleeve of the universe. A cold glint flashed in Fu Yichuan's eyes. His sleeves fluttered, and all the attacks were absorbed into the runes in the sky. Suddenly, an extremely bright light appeared in front of them and quickly landed beside the 2 commanders of the sea race. A layer of green light spread out around the light, and then a layer of white light spread out. The white light spread out a layer of gold, and the sky suddenly enlarged. A figure emerged from it and walked out. Fu Yichuan's expression changed drastically. His world in the sleeve was a space of its own that could absorb everything and isolate everything at the same time, but the other party had actually walked in without a care. In his shock and anger, he took a step forward and attacked with his palm. The commander of the Strength Whale and Devil Otters were overjoyed when they saw this person. It was the commander of the Ugly Fish clan. He held a bright bead in his hand, which was constantly swallowing and spitting out green light. He was relying on this to break the world in the sleeve. "You guys go first," the Ugly Fish commander said coldly. He stepped out from the layers of light and drew a few runes in the air with his right hand. They formed a simple hexagonal symbol, which enlarged in front of him and shook out. Bang! The hexagonal pattern was shattered by Fu Yichuan's palm. Fu Yichuan's body paused for a moment, but in just a moment, he once again closed in. However, his expression was extremely unsightly. The strength whale and the commander of the devil otters had already disappeared from the layers of light. Since you've risked your life to save them, you can stay here. A murderous look flashed in Fu Yichuan's eyes. A force exploded in his palm and shot down. The ugly fish clan's commander revealed a mocking smile and said, "You want to keep me? What right do you have to do this?" He stretched out his left hand, and the green pearl in his palm slowly rose a few inches. With a crack sound, it actually cracked, and countless cracks appeared, turning into fragments one by one, flying in the air in his palm. Those fragments of the pearl were like patterns, rolling up a storm, and suddenly the world changed color. Fu Yichuan's pupils contracted, and his eyes were filled with killing intent. He shouted as he struck with his palm. The entire heaven and earth phenomenon suddenly shattered under his palm, and the fragments of the vortex also broke apart and shot out in all directions. However, the ugly fish clan's commander had already disappeared, leaving behind only two faint words that reverberated in the air. Retreat. The sea race people were stunned for a long time before they came back to their senses and retreated backward. Fu Yichuan's face was so twisted that it looked like blood was about to drip out. The veins on his forehead popped out as he roared, "Kill, kill." As one of the members of the Red Moon City Council, it was rare for him to be so furious. The human ancient martial art practitioners came back to their senses after hearing his roar. They immediately shouted and chased after the retreating sea race experts. They wanted to kill as many people as possible. Soon, they had chased for thousands of meters and killed more than 100 people before retreating. On the spectator stand, Ning Huaishu said, "Lord Yichuan, there's no need to be so angry. At least we've won this battle. The purpose of the battle has been achieved. We should be overjoyed." Everyone nodded in agreement. Fu Yichuan's face darkened and he said coldly, "I can't be happy about letting 3 7-stars martial sovereigns escape from me." Sheng smiled. "You don't have to blame yourself, my lord. These are the overlords of the East Sea. It's normal for them to have some life-saving means. It's against common sense if they die like this." His expression turned serious. "After this battle, I'm even more suspicious of the sea race's strategy. It's very likely that they'll drag the battle to the entire East Sea. We can't delay the matter of Baicheng City." Liao Yangbing and the other two martial supremes exchanged a look and said, "Since that's the case, let's go now." Sheng nodded and said, "Go and come back quickly. Obtaining information is the main priority. Resisting the sea race is secondary. If something happens to Baicheng City, help as much as you can, and return if you can't." Yes. The three of them accepted the order and left. Outside the city, the human race had won a big victory. They were returning with high spirits. However, they didn't feel as relaxed as before. Many of them felt heavy-hearted, as if they had realized that the war was not as simple as it seemed. Furthermore, many of their comrades had been killed or injured in this battle, and very few people had smiles on their faces. The level 1 teams were still fine, but the level 2 and level 3 teams basically had deaths of different levels. Not many teams could remain intact. When the Battle Blade team returned to the city wall where they had occupied it before, they were all filled with lingering fear, but they were more grateful to Yunxiao. If it were not for him taking care of them on the battlefield, the team would not have been intact. After each battle, the team leader would do a head count and check on the casualties before reporting to his superiors. Liang Yuanji returned very quickly with a serious expression. "Everyone, get up quickly. We have a mission." Elder Yan was stunned for a moment, his face was filled with confusion. "The sea race is here again? Why didn't I hear the war drums?" The others were also confused and angry. They had just finished a battle and were all tired. How could they accept the mission? Liang Yuanji shook his head. "The mission this time is relatively easy. The risk factor shouldn't be too high. Our Battle Blade team will temporarily be under Lord Liao Yangbing's management. We'll go to Baicheng City to carry out an investigation mission." A faint smile flickered on Yunxiao's face. As expected, they had come. Scouting in Baicheng City? What's going on? Could it be that there's also a sea race there? Chen Zhongwei was confused, but his expression became more serious. Everyone seemed to have noticed that things were not as simple as they seemed, but to divide the troops to go to other places at such a tense time of war, they would not do this if there was no major event. Liang Yuanji said, God knows. Anyway, this is a mission from the top. We can't go against it. We must carry it out. Everyone, follow me. Soon, more than 60 people gathered in the teleportation area. They were the 3 teams that the 3 martial sovereigns had personally appointed. To the Warblade team's surprise, one of the teams was Gan Wuqin's team. At this moment, there were only 15 or 16 members left, and it seemed like a few more had died. Besides, Gan Wuqin had been released at some point, and he was now staring at Yunxiao with hatred. If it were not for the restraint, he would have already pounced on Yunxiao and bitten him. Yunxiao just smiled indifferently. Of course, he would not take this kind of person to heart. And from the hatred in the man's eyes, it could be seen that he had suffered a lot. The other team was called Red Water. The name was a bit strange, but there were 19 people in the team, which showed that their strength was not ordinary. They had such a high survival rate in the previous tragic battle. The members of the Red Water team looked at the Battle Blade team with strange expressions, not understanding why they had an extra member, and most of their eyes were on Yunxiao. Liao Yangbing gave the third team an indifferent glance, then said without looking at Yunxiao, from now on, each team will follow a lord and must obey his command. This mission is extremely important. If there's any mistake, we won't let you off easily. Yes. Everyone shouted in deep voices. They were not fools, and naturally understood that unless something major was happening, it was absolutely impossible for them to split up and leave at this time. Liao Yangbing looked at the other 2 martial emperor powerhouses from the Red Moon City and said, Do the 2 sirs have any other orders? One of them was a member of the Ruan family, named Ruan Shichuan. He was a distant relative of the Ruan family. Because of his amazing strength, he had also entered the core of the family. The other person was a foreign dignitary, but he was also an old man of the Red Moon City. His name was Yi Lechi. The 2 of them looked at each other and shook their heads. You'll be in charge of this entire trip. The 2 of us are just assisting, Ruan Shichuan said. Liao Yangbing smiled and said, If that's the case, let's go. I'll go with the members of the Battle Blade team. Since the teleportation formation could only teleport 20 people at a time, 2 people from the group were added to Gan Wuqin's group. However, the 2 of them were extremely unwilling and fought back with all their might, causing the 3 martial sovereigns to frown. This made everyone curious. What was so good about the Battle Blade team that they felt such a strong sense of belonging to it? In the end, they were only willing to split up when they were teleported, but they still looked unwilling. With the addition of Liao Yangbing, there were exactly 20 people. They stepped into the newly repaired teleportation formation and disappeared in a flash of light. What's going on? A moment later, everyone was transported out of the spatial tunnel. However, what they saw made them frown. The surroundings were barren, like a field, but looking forward, it was a mountain range. Everyone knew that there was a problem with the teleportation. What should we do now? Liao Yangbing frowned. He had never thought that there would be a teleportation error. It must have been because he did not repair it in a hurry after the Michaud was destroyed. He did not have the coordinates of Baicheng City with him, so he lost his direction all of a sudden. He could not help but look at Yunxiao. After all, it was Yunxiao who had requested to go to White Surge City. You've been in Haitian Town for so long, Yunxiao said with a frown. Don't you even have the positioning astrolabe of the coastal cities? Everyone was taken aback and looked at Yunxiao in horror. How dare he talk to Lord Liao Yangbing like that, and in such a harsh tone? They all broke out in cold sweat, wondering how Lord Liao Yangbing would punish them. To everyone's surprise, Liao Yangbing slapped his forehead and laughed, I would have forgotten if you didn't mention it. The war has been too tough recently, and my memory has deteriorated. A green light flashed in his hand, and a square formation plate appeared in his hand. He then began to set the location. The members of the team all had their mouths wide open, secretly thinking that this lord actually had such a good temper. The formation plate glowed with light and began to display a realistic illusion. In an instant, the land, mountains, and rivers were all laid out before their eyes. The image displayed before them was none other than Whiterush City, and the surrounding scenery was vastly different from the one they were currently in. Liao Yongbing frowned and slapped the formation plate. A secret compartment opened, and a needle appeared. It kept spinning and pointed to the south. Mr. Feiyang, he's in the south, Liao Yongbing said. Yunxiao nodded. Yes, let's go south. I don't know how far away we are. It shouldn't be far. The crowd sighed at the martial emperor's good temper. If it were any other Nine Heavens realm expert, they would have killed Yunxiao with one palm for being so rude. Liao Yangbing threw out a 7th grade Golden Sun battleship, and everyone flew on it, heading south at full speed. He and Yunxiao went straight into the secret chamber, and the rest of the team stayed in the guest cabin. Thank you, young Master Yunxiao, for saving me. When the two of them were alone, Liao Yangbing immediately bowed to him. He was truly grateful. Although he was a sly old fox and extremely shrewd, nothing was more important than his own life. He still knew how to repay the kindness of his savior. With a wave of his hand, Yunxiao lifted him up and said, "It's too serious. I was just reminding you in time. It was your own strength that allowed you to escape. If you were really in danger, I wouldn't have revealed my identity to save you." Liao Yongbing was shocked. Yunxiao's support was light and soft, but he could not resist it. Knowing that the other party's cultivation base must have improved a lot, he said, "That's for sure." Young Master Yunxiao's courage is beyond ordinary people's imagination since he dared to sneak into the sky-towering city at this time. With a wry smile, Yunxiao shook his head and sighed, "This war was more or less caused by me, I really feel guilty." Liao Yongbing couldn't help but be curious, then, Xiaohong Qianqian? I do know Xiaohong's whereabouts, but I can't return it to the Sea Tribe at the moment, Yunxiao interrupted. So, in addition to Baiming Tianlu, I plan to go to the Palace of East Sea this time and completely solve the problem of Xiaohong. What? Liao Yangbing's eyes almost popped out of their sockets as he exclaimed, You're going to Donghai Palace? Yunxiao nodded with a solemn face and said, Xiaohong's identity is very special, and the people of the Sea Tribe are determined to get her. If we don't clear up the misunderstanding, I'm afraid the war between the two races will continue to escalate, which will be a disaster for the entire heavenly martial realm. But Ing Luo. Liao Yangbing stood there in a daze, unable to speak for a while. I hope we can go out to sea as soon as possible, Yunxiao said. I hope the entire East Sea can resist the large-scale attack. The skyscraping city must be the core of the war along the East Sea. From your observation, how long can it be defended? He paused and continued. How long have you been guarding, Gugu? Liao Yangbing recovered from the shock and thought for a while before saying, as long as there are no 9 stars martial emperor experts attacking the city, we should be able to defend it for a while. That's good, Yunxiao nodded. You can buy me more time. Moreover, the Red Moon City will never allow the skyscraping city to be breached. They must have some hidden cards that you don't know about, and they should be able to hold on for longer than expected. Liao Yangbing's heart sank. Young Master Yunxiao, are you planning to go out to sea from Whitewash City? Yunxiao nodded and said, the entire east coast has been sealed off. It's impossible to enter the sea from Haitian Town. Although there are traces of the Sea Tribe in Whitewash City, there are definitely more chances. Furthermore, we can avoid the Baiming family and act on our own. This way, we will have less trouble. Liao Yangbing's expression changed slightly. He wanted to say something, but he stopped and frowned. Since we are on the same side, Yunxiao gave him a look and said, you can just say what you want. Liao Yangbing let out a sigh of relief and said, what I'm worried about is actually very shallow, which is the safety of life and death. The older I get, the less I want to take risks, he said with a bitter smile. I can take the risk, but I don't dare to go to the current palace. Furthermore, if we cast off the Baiming family, the road ahead will be filled with difficulties that you and I may not be able to handle. Yunxiao laughed. Lady Yangbing, you have indeed lost your drive. Although the East Ocean is vast, there are not many people who can stop us if we want to leave. As for the matter of the palace, I can go alone. Liao Yangbing smiled wryly. He felt that there was indeed a huge difference in courage between him and Yunxiao. In his heart, he still felt that it was inappropriate to leave the Baiming family, so he was reluctant to answer. Yunxiao was not in a hurry. It was still a problem to go out to sea now. If he could find a way, he would have no choice but to do what he was told when the situation forced him to do. Suddenly, the entire warship trembled violently, as if it had suffered an extremely powerful attack. The entire room was spinning as if it was about to fall. Their expressions changed drastically, and a trace of anger flashed across their faces. Who was so bold? Everyone rushed to the deck at once, while Yunxiao teleported directly to the main control room. Some of the arrays had stopped working, and some of their parts had obviously been seriously damaged. He quickly cast an art to stabilize the warship. Then, he rushed to the deck and saw that the sky was clear and no one was there. However, Liao Yangbing's eyes were sharp as he stared at a cloud in the sky and shouted, "Who is it? Get out here. What's the point of hiding?" Yunxiao's pupils constricted as well. He immediately sensed that someone was hiding in the white cloud, and he had an extremely high cultivation base. Of course, the members of the Battle Blade team did not notice this, but they followed Liao Yangbing's gaze. It's Lady Yangbing, what a coincidence. A sinister and wild laugh came from the white cloud, and then a person slowly walked out of it. Liao Yangbing's face changed, and he said in shock, "Michael, why is it you?" he asked. The man was none other than Michael. He had a sinister smile on his face, and the murderous intent in his eyes was unconcealed. The heavens really have eyes. I can get my revenge so quickly. Liao Yangbing's heart sank. Mi Goyang's strength was above his, and even with Yunxiao, they were no match for him. He said calmly, "Lord Gaoyang, I don't know what misunderstanding there is between you and me that made you mistakenly think that I am an enemy. We're comrades who have gone through life and death together." Pa. Misho's sinister smile immediately turned into a towering rage. He gritted his teeth and said, "I had a great future in Red Moon City. I had access to countless resources for my cultivation, but it was all because of you. Because of you, I'm in such a sorry state now. I even want to rob a Golden Sun warship. But it's really heaven's will. The heavens have sent you directly to me. If I don't treat you well today, I'll really let down this heaven's will." It turned out that Misho was planning to rob the warship. What a coincidence. Liao Yangbing was anxious. He didn't know where Wan Shichuan and Yi Lechi had been teleported to. If those two were here, they could definitely take down Mi Gaoyang, which would be a great achievement. He pretended to be calm on the surface and said, "Lord Michael, you can only blame yourself for not cherishing this opportunity. You actually ran away at the last moment. Who can you blame? Why don't you follow me back to the skyscraping city now? I can plead with Lord Ninghuaishu on your behalf. On account of your previous outstanding military achievements, Lord Huaishu will definitely be lenient and even make up for your mistakes." What a joke. You sent me on a suicide mission and said I didn't cherish it. Michael said angrily. You deserve to die. You should have been the one to go on that mission. It's all your fault. His eyes were filled with ferocity, and his aura began to release as he walked down from the sky. Liao Yangbing's face changed slightly, but he still said calmly, "Master Misho, do you know why we are here?" Michael's body trembled, and he stopped in his tracks. What's the matter? Liao Yangbing's eyes flashed with coldness. Naturally, we're here on Lord Ninghuaishu's orders to capture you. Otherwise, why would we come to this desolate wilderness? Mi Goyang's expression changed drastically. He immediately backed off for dozens of meters and became alert. He had the same thought in the beginning, but he did not see any movement from the other party. It was only Liao Yangbing, a marshal supreme, who showed up outside, that he became more courageous.